six, five, four, three, two, one.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me for the first episode of the Kayak Cafe. Tonight, we're going to have a great person, David Sanchez. Over a year ago, I created a nice magazine. I hope it's a nice magazine, and had the honor of having David as the cover. So the first thing I thought of was when I'm starting this podcast is to have David come on and get a get the podcast started the same way I got the magazine started with David. Um, this podcast is going to basically be a great location to interact with anglers, kayak manufacturers, anyone and everyone to get the information out there. So, all right, without further ado, I'm going to ask Mr. Sanchez to join us. Hello, David. How are you?
Well, hey, everybody. I'm doing great.
Awesome. So, I want to apologize because I know after you were on the cover of the magazine, you probably got bombarded with people trying to take your picture and get autographs. So I apologize for that.
I I think I've forgiven you.
Okay. Yeah.
But I do want to share that after I was on the cover of the first issue of the Kayak Fishing Magazine, um, I think people started to take notice of my Facebook page, Instagram page. I think that it did a lot for me. It
Awesome.
did a lot for me in terms of exposure. So I really appreciated that.
That's great. It was really nice to have you in there and give your insights into to what you like to do. To be honest with you, I'm in Virginia Beach and there's a lot of salt water. And when you said you were catching freshwater red drum, I was like, I didn't know that was possible because everything here is salt water, maybe brackish, but nothing pure fresh with red drum.
Yeah, so the difference with the freshwater redfish and the
Hmm.
saltwater redfish is the way the meat tastes. It's a little bit different tasting, a little bit mushier with the
Hmm.
freshwater, but it is the same fish, and they both taste great, but they don't taste the same.
Ours are pre-seasoned, a little bit of salt. Awesome. So, um, for you, your goals for 2025, what are you looking forward to doing? Are you looking to branch out away from the redfish or?
Well, I definitely want to call redfish home.
Hmm.
Whenever I want to, I can't get a distance, let's say to the Gulf of Mexico
Hmm.
or hit some of the northern lakes in Austin or Dallas. I've always got these two lakes. There's Bronig Lake, there is Calaveras Lake.
Hmm.
Uh, they're like 20 minutes apart. They both have the freshwater reds. That's home for me. That's like I can call that my office. When I want to I can't go anywhere, but I want to fish.
Right.
But when I want to and really enjoy fishing, I want to get out there and do the bays. I want to do offshore fishing, and I'm really enjoying learning about the bass fishing, which is completely different kind of fishing.
Yes. Yeah. So, and you're located in Texas, correct?
Right.
So,
Mostly what we do with in the what we call the Twin Lakes here in San Antonio is we troll, and that works. Now, when
mhm.
you go and you redfish in the bays, you're not trolling, you're casting. But trolling is the way we catch fish in the Twin Lakes here in San Antonio. And with bass fishing, it's casting. So it's a wholly methods of trying to catch your fish.
I can see that. Yeah. It's it's kind of a when we're here locally, we cast to the redfish like we do the bass. Like we don't. Um, I haven't seen a lot of trolling for the redfish. Plus, we do a lot of sight fishing for tails. So it's kind of like just easy transition from a lake to the saltwater here. So
Yeah.
that's interesting to hear that. So have you changed your game plan for fishing towards bass? I mean, do you have to retool your kayak for that, or are you just good to go?
No, I actually have to do a lot of before nighttime prepping
Hmm.
because it depends on which kayak I'm going to take. So I've got a new addition in the fleet. I've got two kayaks. They're both
Hmm.
Old Towns, and a different set of lures. So the lures that I use for redfish are not the same lures I use for bass fishing. And if I were to go offshore, that's a whole different set of lures as well. I'm really not big on live bait. So I'm primarily a lure fisherman. And that's what I'm doing the night before is I'm deciding which motor makes sense for the trip because I do use
Hmm.
two motors, two different kinds of motors on my autopilot. So I've got to decide which motor I'm going to use. And then I've got a pre-pack for the motor. Then I've got a pre-pack for the lures. I've got a pre-pack for the rod and reel combos. It takes me a little bit of work. And I'm always going to forget something, but all I can hope for is whatever I forget, I can live without. Uh, but I try my best to keep my garage organized so that I can grab what I need quickly, load it into the vehicle, and hopefully not forget anything. But yeah, I'm constantly rearranging what I'm taking, constantly.
Yes, yeah. I try to stage everything myself, and we did a lot of camping myself and my son. So we have checklists, and it's almost without a fail. You're going to miss the one thing that you need the most off that checklist.
Yeah, I think my worst experience has been going to Corpus. It's about a 2 hour drive for me to go to Corpus. Went to
Hmm.
Corpus one time and loaded my entire kayak. And once I loaded the entire kayak, I realized I didn't bring my fishing rod and reel. That's probably been the biggest mistake I ever made.
Now, what did you do? Did you go back home, or did you hit the local bait and tackle and pick up a?
Well, I got out there in the water just to sightsee and check out the area for next
Hmm.
time. But I didn't. I thought about should I go run to the store, buy a quick rod and reel combo, or should I just go home? Well, I fished the area. I trolled the area,
Hmm.
kayaked it just to see what it was like, and then I
Right.
just went back home. Went back home
Yeah, I would have stood at the
because I
dock.
got too many rod and reels at home, and I don't need to be buying any more.
Don't say too many. You never know.
My
I would.
wife, she realized how many
Mm-hmm.
rod and reels I actually have. And after she got mad and asked me about 20 questions why I needed so many, she
Hmm.
actually bought me one of those rotating stands for your rods and reels.
Oh yes.
So that, because I had them everywhere. So,
Yeah.
yeah, she
If
doesn't
I.
always see everything I've got, but she's starting to catch on.
Oh, they know. Oh, they know. Yeah, I would have stood at the dock. Every boat came down. Like, you going to use all those fishing rods? You going to hook a brother up? Yeah. Awesome. So, do you primarily fish at night? Because I know you said you staged before. Will you do your bass fishing at night as well?
No, I don't get to do bass fishing at night. I get up at 4 in the morning
Mm-hmm.
and usually will hit the road at 4:30 in the morning to 5:30 in the morning, depending where I'm going. I like to fish early in the morning and get that early morning bite. I'll
Yes.
usually fish noon to 1. Now I have tried fishing at night. It's a slow bite at
Yes.
nighttime, and so I really don't do a lot of nighttime fishing. But
Right.
I did rig my kayak for a lot of lights in case I ever do that.
Nice. Have you entered in any tournaments?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of redfish tournaments locally here at Calaveras Lake. I did my first bass fish tournament.
Mm-hmm.
at Lake Fork, middle of November. What an experience! It was a huge lake. I'd never been there. I didn't really know where to go. And I had some really good fishermen go with me, and we just kind of did a little research with some apps. We talked to a few people. Um, I had one guy with our group who did a lot of pre-fishing before the rest of us got down there, and he was able to say yay and nay to some areas that he pre-fished. So we finally picked a spot, and it wasn't a bad spot. It was a great spot. Uh, we didn't do so well, but that's how it goes sometimes. Sometimes when you fish a lake for the very first time,
Mm-hmm.
it's a learning experience, and that's what it was
Yes.
for us. And for me, is the area that we chose. Uh, we had not fished it, so we just went out there blindly, and we did the best we could, and we caught fish, but we didn't catch any tournament-sized fish. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't we didn't do so well, but we learned a lot, and that's we're ready for the next time we go to Lake Fork. So it was a Bass Nation fishing tournament where they do what they call a power hour, and they pay out for the largest bass caught every hour.
Mm.
Very interesting tournament. I really enjoyed it, and I plan to do that one again.
Yeah, that's a different format. That sounds like a really good opportunity for a lot of different payouts.
Yeah, it was. I tried to do the math. I want to say they paid out 7, 8 thousand because they even paid out a kayak. They paid out
Wow.
the biggest bass,
Mm-hmm.
every hour, the most inches I think it was. They were paying out a lot. There was a lot of opportunity.
So looking back on the tournament, for someone who, let's say they're going to run their first bass tournament, and you said there's a lot of lessons learned. What would you do different? What? Give me a couple examples of like the moments where you're like, should have prepared just a tad bit more.
So I think that you don't want to get too fancy on your lures.
Mm-hmm.
You want to stay with your core lures, um, jigs, um, robo worms,
Mm-hmm.
senkos. Those are some of your most people's favorite go tos. Um, some of the bigger lures will catch fish, definitely catch fish. But when you're in a tournament, you want to appeal to what that fish is going to go for, and so you want to stick with your core lures. You don't want to pull out anything too fancy because you don't know what the fish really want,
Right.
and you don't want to spend an hour trying out large lures or unusual lures that don't have any that you don't have any
Confidence in.
proven
Yeah.
record. Yeah.
Yes, I've done a couple small tournaments. I haven't entered any of like the KBF or anything beyond that big tournaments. So I agree with that 100%. I took the whole kit and caboodle boom, and you always whittle your way back down to the Cinco or maybe a spinner bait or something. You fall back on the confidence. And then if it gets really bad, you go all the way down
Yeah.
to the beetle spin.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's easy to question yourself, and you've got to stay confident. Once you lose your
Mm-hmm.
confidence, you start to do things wrong. So you've got to maintain your confidence level when you're fishing, and you got to think smart. So you got to look for the right areas, the grassy areas, the structure areas. Don't try anything weird, something that you've never tried before. Um, just I don't know that for me, learning how to bass fish has been an ongoing thing for
Mm-hmm.
me. I've got some really good friends that are really good fishermen who are constantly showing me things, teaching me, and showing me why I did something wrong and explaining why it didn't make sense. So I like that I am surrounded by a lot of really good fishermen in the group of people that I fish with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always what's the saying? Don't be the smartest person in the room. Always be surrounded by someone who knows a little more than you. Yeah. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, in your tournaments, um, do you have you pre-fish tournaments? Like, because that's another thing that I haven't done is with a bigger tournament is the pre-fish days and like the prep and the multiple days. Was this a 1 day event or was this like a larger?
This particular Lake Fork was a 1 day event.
Hmm.
Um, the whole pre-fishing thing, it doesn't work, in my
Hmm.
opinion. It 50% of the time it'll work, 50% of the time it won't. I did a lot of pre-fishing in redfish tournaments where we found them the day
Hmm.
before, but they weren't there the next day, and it's just you have to start all over again. But it's tournament day, so you spend 2 hours going back to the places you saw them the day before, but you wasted those 2 hours because they weren't there.
Hmm.
So I'm starting to put less focus on pre-fishing and pre-researching instead.
Right. Yeah, because I've seen a lot of older videos when people are going to do their tournaments. They were sitting at a table with a chart, looking at all the structure and um, different topographical things to hit. And I always thought that was cool. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of people that would do that now versus just going out and scanning it with their side scan or chart plotters. But um, awesome. We have a couple questions. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is I put out a questionnaire, and people can ask
Okay.
questions as they think of them before the podcast. And we have a couple of questions. So Oscar, he has a question. Besides Calaveras Lake in San Antonio, Texas, what other body of water do you like to fish, and for what kind of fish?
I have really gotten used to fishing at Walter E. Long in Austin, also known as Decker Lake. I think people maybe locally know it more as Decker Lake, but if you're going to look at a Google map, it's going to come up as a Walter E. Long Lake. I like that lake. And so if there is another lake that I'm going to try to get to, it's that lake.
Hmm.
Uh, I like um, the size of the lake. Uh, it doesn't have the biggest bass in Texas, but they're not little
Right.
either. So that's become one of my favorites. Thirdly, the Gulf of Mexico. I've been out there quite a few times, and I'm really getting to like and getting more comfortable with learning how to fish the Gulf of Mexico.
Nice. He also has a second question. If your electronics went out while fishing for redfish at Calaveras Lake, what would you look for to catch fish?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So that actually happened to me 2 or 3 weeks ago. My I couldn't get my fish finder to
Hmm.
work, and I figured it out later. But during that time, I had to fish without uh, that fish finder, and so I started looking at birds, seeing if there were any birds grouping up,
Hmm.
because most fishermen will view that as that's where the bait fish are, and if that's where the bait fish are, that's where your bigger fish are going to migrate to. So if I see a group of birds in an area, I'll go to that area and see what's going on. Also, I like coves. So I'll always get into a cove
Hmm.
and cast in the cove and usually do well in a cove. Uh, also, staying in the shallow parts, uh, 3 to 6 feet
Hmm.
along the banks. I'll try to focus on just staying around the banks. Uh, and yeah, I'll just do some really easy ideas. Now, at Brawny Lake and Calaveras Lake,
Hmm.
uh, fish sometimes they like to hang out where the water comes out of the plant, and so with the air being as cold as it is and the water coming out hot at Calaveras and Bronick, I've noticed that they're starting to migrate towards that warmer water.
Yeah.
And it's always good to stay where the water is coming out, where it's warm, and you can usually find your reds there as well.
Yeah, we have a couple of spots like that locally here. They're the warmer weather almost year round, warmer water almost year round, so they can be caught almost year round. We have another question here. This is
Okay.
from Robert. All right. Robert said, as far as motors go, do you prefer an in hull like the Autopilot or an external motor like the Newport?
So I've got an autopilot kayak. That's one of my kayaks. I've had it for going on 4 years now. Obviously, it came with the motor, the Minn Kota
Mm-hmm.
motor, but I wanted more speed because I was taking that kayak offshore, and so I wanted a bigger motor with more speed. And I figured out a good way to put a an NK300 on the back of the autopilot. I realized that there were differences in the way it tracked in the water.
Hmm.
So when you're using an NK300 on an
Mm-hmm.
autopilot, the rudder becomes useless. So keeping the kayak straight is a challenge. Uh, it's doable it's doable, but it doesn't work as good as the rudder. It works just differently.
Mm-hmm.
I like that I can get from point A to point B with an NK300 motor. I top out at 5.5. I think on a Hobie, an NK300 you could actually hit 6, but the hulls are different.
Mm-hmm.
So on the autopilot, it's about 5.5. Um, I love using the Minn Kota when I'm bass fishing because I like the spot lock feature. But if I'm offshore or I know I'm in a large body of water and I know that I'm going to want to go clear across another part of the lake to fish, I want that NK300 for that reason. But for bass fishing, it's the Minn Kota for sure. For offshore, it's the NK300, and for larger lakes, it's the NK300, just for the simple purpose of getting from point A to point B and fishing the next spot much
And
quicker.
probably tournaments also the NK, so you can get to your spot quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And the what size battery do you have for the NK?
The NK300, I'm using a 36-volt, 55 amp per hour
Mm-hmm.
Z Pro battery. With the Minn Kota, it's a 12 volts, 100 amp Z Pro battery.
Nice. He also has a couple more. Um, what do you think of Pro Staff?
Um, I did pro staff for Fin
Mm-hmm.
Fish, which was a site where you could post your catches, and they had some tools within the
Mm-hmm.
app to help you plan your fishing trip. I did Fish Fin, is what it was called, Fish Fin, and I liked it. It didn't really take off, uh, but it's a great app nonetheless. I did Pro Staff for Z Pro for just under 3 years. Um, that was a fast growing business
Mm-hmm.
for lithium batteries. And I'm also part of another group called Los Pescadores de Texas. Um, Fishermen in Texas is what it
Mm-hmm.
translates to. So
I, I
Los
I knew that.
Pescadores de Texas.
I knew that.
Okay. They are make shirts
Mm-hmm.
for fishermen, and they tailor them. They'll put your name on the back, and love it. Love the shirts. They fit great. They dry fast. Some other shirts that I wear are too loose. This one's a little more
Mm-hmm.
fitted. I like that. So doing pro staff, I have liked it. It has helped me tremendously because I learned of other fishing groups that I joined. I found that other people had questions about things that I was doing that I would have never made contact with had I not been promoting and doing these short videos I was doing, these
Hmm.
reels. Uh, I want to continue to do pro staff, but I'm probably going to be a little more selective on what I'm promoting.
Hmm.
Uh, but I definitely like the whole pro staff business.
Hmm. Yeah. So when I think of pro staff, I think it's a great term between of a relationship between yourself and the company you love. But I don't think it holds a lot of weight for people, when you're like, I'm pro staff. Because I think it's been so saturated that everybody's pro staff that it's hard to be um, like wowed by the fact that you're pro staff. Maybe sponsored
Right.
by is
Yes.
more okay. I'm sponsored by, boom, then you're more legit. That's been my feeling.
Right. Some of the local, regional type
Hmm.
businesses don't require a lot when it comes to promoting their business. They just maybe want a few pictures, a few videos. But if you get it with a larger company like, let's say, Yak
Hmm.
Attack, Z-Pro, um, Railblazer, they're going to give you a contract to sign. They're going to give you a whole list of requirements, and they're going to be checking
Hmm.
to see if you're meeting those needs. Um, some people join Pro Staff, I understand, just for the
Hmm.
discount. Other people, they really truly want to help a business. Um, you have to ask yourself, what is it that you want out of it? For me, uh, I wanted to get out there and meet people and learn the fishing
Hmm.
business. And I at the time I was just good at reels, so I did a lot of fishing reels that got a lot of attention. I didn't really um, know what promoting a business was about. I just put their product in my reels, in my pictures, in my videos, and it seemed to take off well for me. But yeah, for some people, it may not be um, something where they get a lot of attention because, like you said, everybody's doing something pro staff. But it depends on how you promote it, how you present it, how you present yourself on what you get out of it. So let's just say what you put into it, you could expect to get out of it.
Awesome. Awesome. So, Southwest has a good point there. So this is, I believe, is one of your friends, um, Michael Manning. He said, "Hey, David, are you going to be coming up to Central Texas and fishing any of our all-star fishing tournaments this year?" Sounds like
Well, hey,
sounds like
Michael,
an invitation to me.
thanks for joining us. Yeah, well, Michael, I do. Um, I'll tell you what's going on. Uh, I just recently had a situation where somebody drove their vehicle into my driveway and crashed both of our vehicles in our driveway.
Mhm.
So I'm limited right now on distance because I need to get two vehicles fixed. My wife is also planning some spring vacation trips on the weekends. I'm trying to get in there. I will. I'm going to join All Star on some tournaments. I won't be able to make them all, but I got to work them in between car repairs, between what my wife plans for family vacations, um, and and the job, of course. But yeah, I definitely want to get in with All Star and get in more involved with you guys.
He has one more question. He says, "What's your take on TXKBL canceling this year's trail and Tackle Shack stepping in to kind of fill the gap?"
What is TXKBL?
Probably the Texas Kayak Bass League.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I did read something about that on Facebook. I don't have much of a take on it
Mm.
because I'm so new to bass fishing. I'm just focusing on the fishing. I really haven't gotten to the business
Hmm.
end of what goes on around bass fishing. I'm just trying to learn still how to catch bass.
Awesome. I'm gonna take a moment and I'm gonna basically thank our sponsors real quick. So this
Okay.
and our sponsors for 2024, 2025 are Snake River Lockers. They make some amazing trailers. So if you haven't purchased a trailer or you want to upgrade what you have, check out snakeriverlockers.com. We also have Kayak Coffee. Um, they make a great brew. Um, Highly recommend them. As well as we're not sponsored by, but I love to promote Heroes on the Water. Heroes on the Water is a great organization that takes active duty, retired military, and first responders kayak fishing at no charge. So if you can support in your local area, that'd be great. If you are a military member, take the time and go get with them and go enjoy a day with some like-minded individuals. All right. So, do you have a trailer for your kayaks, David?
I have two trailers. I have one, and they're really inexpensive trailers. They're not real fancy. I've got a Harbor Freight trailer. It's rigged up, so I have a Smitty tent
Hmm.
on it, the one that folds up. So that one's got the Smitty built tent on top, and I can put a kayak underneath. I've got another one that's a Northern Tools trailer that's just for
Hmm.
kayaks. Um, and I use them if I'm going to camp. I'm going to take the Harbor Freight trailer and the tent. If I'm just going for the day and coming home, I'm going to take the Northern Freight trailer. They've been great trailers for me. No issues, no problems. They probably could use an extended bar so they don't wobble so far behind the vehicle and wiggle. Yeah, those are the trailers that I use, and I do a lot of distance with these trailers.
Nice. So, when you're offshore fishing, what are some of the challenges you really run into offshore fishing?
Dolphin, shark. Um, the dolphin really pretty much will leave you alone unless you've entered into their feeding area. If they were eating and when you got there,
Hmm.
they could slap your kayak with their tail. They or could just chase your catch as you're reeling it in. Shark, there I really haven't had a whole lot of negative experience with shark,
Hmm.
except you're going to catch a lot of shark, and you got to figure out how to safely get them off the hook. Um, those have been my challenges. I have not had an experience with bad weather. I carefully select my days
Hmm.
so that I know that it's gonna be calm when I get out there. Now I've done um, 3 years on the autopilot offshore, and I decided last year that I needed to try something different because with the autopilot, if the motor goes out, if there's a problem with the battery, something happens with the wiring, uh, I might have to paddle 2 or 3 miles back
Hmm.
to the beach, and that's kind of an ugly thought. So I knew I needed to rethink this, and I did. So late last year, I picked up a second kayak. It's another old town. It's the Salty PDL. This is a foot pedal kayak. I don't plan on ever putting a motor on it. It's got a great foot pedal gear system. I can comfortably paddle 4 miles an hour on it. And in a sprint kind of sense, I can go 5 miles an hour. So
Hmm.
it's really fast. It cuts through the water really well. And it has not been offshore yet, but I've taken it bass fishing. For you guys that are watching that go to Decker Lake like I do, you guys know that the kayak ramp and the boat ramp almost useless to this point. So I've been taking out the salty PDL because it weighs a lot less. I put it on the wheels and I pull it out to the rocks. And I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you, Roy, but
Mm-hmm.
um, they about, I want to say, 20 yards past the end of the ramp, they did this thing of rocks. So I think they thought they were doing us a favor where we could pull the kayak on wheels through over the rocks and
Mm-hmm.
into the water. They just made it real challenging. So I taking an autopilot that weighs as much as it does over those rocks is very difficult. I'm finding that I'm doing better with the salty PDL at Decker Lake in
Mm-hmm.
Austin to get it to the edge of those rocks to launch and fish. It's a lighter kayak. Don't have a problem foot pedaling it. It's sturdy enough that I can stand and fish in it. It does rock a little bit more because it's got a V-shaped hull, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't rock to the point that I'm going to fall out. So I stand and fish a lot in it. I've also taken this salty PDL out to the Twin Lakes here in San Antonio just because I needed to learn it. I needed to get comfortable with it. And uh, that's what I did. But this kayak I got primarily for offshore. And I plan on making a trip maybe about April where I
Mm-hmm.
don't really go to fish, but I just want to get out there in the breakers with it and make a couple of practice runs in and out of the breakers and see how I do with this salty PDL. One of the interesting things that I added to this salty PDL is called a stubby stick uh, by a company called Steady Stick.
Mm-hmm.
They there's this stick. You can do a short one and you can do a long one that you could hold on to, and it attaches to the foot pedal system. It allows you to hold on for them rocky rides, like when you're offshore. So I'm looking forward to using that, learning that, and maybe making sure that I don't get thrown out when I'm offshore by holding on to that stubby stick.
Yeah, I've seen the stubby stick. That's a pretty neat item. I had a pedal drive kayak before. I have a new canoe now, and I was looking for something for additional stability, but they didn't make it for the kayak I had. It's specifically for that brand. So when you say you go offshore, how far offshore do you go?
I want to say when I was going offshore with the autopilot, I was doing about 3 miles out,
Okay.
um, staying around the oil rigs. When I was doing that, I always have to keep in mind how much battery level is left,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that I'm in a position where if I had to paddle back,
Mm-hmm.
it was doable. So yeah,
Oh,
3 miles has been my distance offshore. Now the interesting thing about the Gulf of Mexico is you can go 3 miles out, but you're still only in about 50 feet of water. But you got to respect that water because that water can get violent
mm-hmm.
at any time.
Do you have a plan if a storm pops up, like besides just turn tail and go? What would?
I do. Um, uh, so I bought last year, and I actually used it last year, a boat marine radio
Mm-hmm.
with it where it tracks GPS. And I attached it to the autopilot with a really long antenna. And it's reachable here. So I'm just going to pull
Okay.
it here. This I have to put onto the kayak. This is the antenna to get good reception with a boat marine radio. It
Yeah.
looks a little unusual. It's definitely doable, but that's my plan is safety. If I get out there and something happens,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to call out. Now, I do use the walkie-talkie. I like the Cobras
Mm-hmm.
walkie-talkie radio, but the walkie-talkie radio is about 5 to 6 watts. That's the so if you're 3 miles out, you're not going to reach anyone for real distance with a 6 watt walkie-talkie
Right.
radio. This boat marine radio that I use is a 25-watt radio. I'm going to reach somebody if I'm in trouble. And yeah, so that's my thinking. Pre-planning the weather
Mm-hmm.
is my what I usually do. But you know what? I've gone out there on great days and seen water spouts
Hmm.
where the water just shoots up,
Yes.
shoots down. You got to be careful with those too. So you really got to look around and see what's going on around you. And the big ships, you don't want to be around those big ships that are making those large wakes.
This is one item that was sent to me. This is called a Nautilus Marine Rescue GPS, and basically you just open it up, pull out a antenna, push a button, and it'll contact every marine radio within a certain mileage and let them know your exact coordinates. I thought that would be
Yeah, there you go.
something great to.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I've got this button on the boat marine
Hmm.
radio where you just push the button and it sends out a beacon signal that you need help, and it sends your coordinates with the signal.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm just looking for every opportunity to not be in a bad situation.
So when you transition to the new kayaks, the Old Town Pilot to the Salty PDL, and was there was it difficult for you not having the motor? You know, like because I used to paddle the unlimited, and then I got a motor for it. I have a Bixby, so it's not a high horsepower, but it's reliable. Did going back to something manual, was that like a hard transition for you? Do you find yourself reaching for the
Um,
throttle?
I no, I don't. But I actually thought, or I was concerned about my knees and how I could handle that because first of all, I have a sit down job, so I'm not up on my legs 8 hours a day working like a lot of other people. I sit in a chair and I work on a
Hmm.
computer, and then I have the autopilot, which doesn't require any leg work to fish. So I'm thinking I really don't have any endurance, leg endurance to foot pedal. So that was my concern. But I found that the gear system with the Old Town Salty, and I imagine it's with any Old Town foot
Hmm.
pedal, is got a great gear system. And the first time out, I did 4 hours on the water. My legs weren't sore. I didn't have any problems with my knees. It was great. And I have owned other foot pedal kayaks where I would tire out at 3 to 4 hours because it didn't have a great foot pedal system. I find that, wow, that salty PDL not only has a great hull for cutting through the
Hmm.
water, but what a great gear system it has. It puts no stress on my leg muscles or my knees. Great gear system.
Yeah, you can definitely tell when they've spent the time engineering. So when you're now that you're transitioning, I don't say transitioning, but now that you're adding bass fishing to um, your arsenal, what are some of the strategies that you're using for bass that you have used for redfish? Do you also look for, let's say, bird activity? Do you look for the same valleys and stuff like that? And do you have any advice for new anglers for like lure choices beyond the ones you take for tournaments? Like if you're just going out for a day bass fishing, do you only take your core tournament, or you go wild with everything you have?
Well, I that's a good question. So I had been taking 5 containers of lures
Hmm.
because I wanted to try everything. I thought everything was going to work, everything I bought. But what I've learned is big lures are
Hmm.
fun and you will catch on them, but you're not going to catch as often. So if you want to spend the day catching a lot of bass, you want to stay with core lures. Your Senkos, your jerk baits,
Hmm.
your jigs, your robo
Hmm.
worms. Those are going to catch you a lot of fish. Um, I seem to also do pretty decent with smaller rattle traps when I'm bass fishing. But I own a lot of interesting other lures that I have caught fish on, but not as often. Don't catch them as often, but I enjoy throwing them. I know they work, but I'm not going to catch as many fish that day. So I think I'm going to put the brakes on buying exotic lures, and I'm just going to focus on learning the robo worm, the Senko, the jig. I just want to focus on your core lures and just catch a lot of fish. Because when it comes down to tournaments, you need to catch inches. You need to catch a lot of fish.
Right. So you would go more core worms and diversify colors, maybe.
Yes. Yeah. And most of the bodies of water I've been fishing for bass have been clear
Hmm.
water. So I don't need to focus on bright colors as much when I'm bass fishing because I've been finding bodies of water that are clear. But there are bodies of water that are murky. And when I fish here in San Antonio with the
Hmm.
redfish, I'm going with really bright colors because the water's really murky. And I do know that I'm probably going to eventually get to bass fishing in some murky waters. I'll go with the brighter colors.
Hmm. So your plan for this year, I think somewhere in my notes I saw that you're trying to get to a double digit for the 2025 season. Do you have a plan to make that happen? Do you have like a place you want to go?
Yeah, yeah. So my double digit right now is 0.3, 3 pounds. That's the biggest bass I've caught. Uh, I I'm going to fish some bodies of water
Hmm.
that have some big bass. I'm going to do the distances, and I'm going to eventually, I know, hit a worthy size bass. It's going to take some time. Just be patient, and I'm sure. And I really believe when it happens, it's going to be on a core lure and not an exotic lure. But uh, yeah, that's my goal is to feel the pull of a 10 plus pound bass on my reel. Now I know what it feels like to catch a big
Hmm.
fish because I catch a lot of big redfish. So I really do know what the pull is like, but they fight different. A redfish, your rod pulls differently than it does with a
Hmm.
bass. So I'm looking forward to feeling the way a bass, a 10 pound bass is going to feel.
I haven't hit double digits myself either, but I've had a couple of larger ones, and they have a nice little tug to them. It's definitely interesting. Do you have do you have a do you have a game plan on where you want to go? Like if you had a dream lake, I could pick you up and drop you at it right now, where you think you have a high probability of a double digit in Texas or anywhere. Where would you like to go?
I'm already making arrangements to hit Lake Fork um, either late March, early April. I'm going to get back to Lake Fork when they're spawning.
Mm,
Um, I also want to get to Sam Rayburn Lake.
yeah.
I hear good things about that lake. Now, I have done OHIV, which is a well known lake. But when I did OHIV, I really didn't know what I was doing as far as bass fishing. Not to mention, we didn't really go on a day that they were really hitting, much less we didn't know much about the lake. And that is another huge lake.
Hmm.
We did our research, but and when I say we, the group that I went with, we didn't fare well the weekend that we went. I don't really look like I don't think I want to get back to OHIV anytime
Mm,
soon. I do want to get back to the Dallas area and do Sam
hmm.
Rayburn, Lake Fork. Um, I want to hit some lakes around the Austin area, Pflugerville. I understand it's pretty decent in Pflugerville, Georgetown. Uh, there's uh,
Mm,
Lady Bird in Austin, uh, Austin Lake or Lake Austin, which is all part of the Colorado River, by the way.
hmm.
I don't want to say I want to do 20 different lakes in Texas, but I want to do those lakes because those lakes have established themselves as worthy lakes to catch good sized fish. I just need to become a worthy fisherman when it comes to bass
Oh,
fishing.
you will. I think that basically, from what I've seen for your redfish and your posting, and your growth in that. It's the same ball game, different field basically. So I think that you'll grasp it, and this year you'll be able to post the double digit. When you do, we'll have to give
Yeah.
you a cameo in the
I always
magazine.
go fishing. I always go fishing with this guy, and I'll throw his name out there. Jonathan Willie, great bass fisherman.
Hmm.
He's constantly teaching me, explaining. He explains things so well. He understands the bass, and he always has great days fishing for
Hmm.
bass. And I fish with him, and I appreciate everything that he teaches me. Great fisherman. Um, I've got some other friends. Hooked R&R Lures. Robert, who is with Hooked R&R Lures, understands the lures. So when I want to a lesson in lures, Hooked R&R is a good guy for me to go to. He knows his lures, and he'll explain to me what's going to work, what's not going to work, and what I need to be focused on
Right.
using. So I like to surround myself with people who've been fishing for years, who can break it down for me like that and really explain what the fish is thinking.
Yeah, that's Robert's the one that asked the question about the hull versus the Newport. So you got a couple of
Yeah,
friends.
good,
Yep.
good guy. Good guy.
Awesome. Well, do you have any final closing? Anything you want to touch on before we go? We're coming up on the 9 o'clock mark.
Okay, well, I do appreciate um, you reaching out to me,
Hmm.
Roy, with the first issue of the magazine. I really enjoy everything you've done with the magazine and now this site. I want to support you in any way I can and see this magazine grow. While I plan on becoming a better bass fisherman, I do plan on doing the All Star tournaments, as many as I can. Those are great guys to fish with. And man, if I catch a big one, you'll know it because I'll
Oh
post it.
yes. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on. Like I said, it was awesome to have you as the first cover. Having you on there was a great way to open a lot of doors for a lot of people, um, to me, and hopefully to you as well. And I've thought of no one else to do the first podcast with, because the magazine is taken off. And if you start it well one way, start this the same way. So I have appreciated your
Well,
time.
thank you. I appreciate it.
And I'm going to go ahead and send you to the back and say goodbye. And then I'll catch up with you in just a second.
Okay, tight lines,
Tight
everyone.
lines. Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for coming in. This is the first podcast for the Kayak Cafe. We'll be doing them every Tuesday starting at 8 o'clock Eastern. And every person that's on, I'm going to be putting a questionnaire out that you can go and fill out and do pre podcast questions submissions. That way we can go ahead and roll through them. And every time you submit, you get entered into a drawing. With us and Kayak Coffee, they're going to be giving away a Tight Lines variety pack. It's a 3-bag pack of coffee. We're going to be doing 2 of those per month. And I will be posting the giveaway sign up for those that didn't ask questions on the Facebook page. So that is the USA Kayak Fishing Magazine Facebook page, and you'll be able to fill it out and get entered in. So again, I want to thank everyone for joining. And if you have any interest in being part of the show, shoot us a message, and we would love to have you on. So again, thank you for everything, and have a good evening.